This is the story of Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, patch 6.1, A Newfound Adventure. Now normally right here I give a recap of what happened last time, but the end of 6.0 was the closing of a complete story arc, and 6.1 begins a new story, so let's just get started. At the Rising Stones, Tataru and the hero sit together and have tea. She says she has lots of free time now, and after the hero says he's ready for more adventure, she has an idea for a trip he should take.
Savnir, that's where you should go next. I doubt you were able to squeeze in a proper tour of Alzadaal the last time you were there. What with the burning skies and rampaging monsters and so forth. And I'm sure Vritra would be pleased to see you.
She also suggests the bounty, now that the Empire is gone. As she prepares a new outfit for him, he dozes off and has a strange vision.
Unless I am returned.
Ah, you're awake. If you'll accompany me to the Diamond Forge, we can put the finishing touches on your outfit. Shall we?
She reveals his new outfit, perfect for a fresh adventure. The hero thanks her, and she dreams of running a clothing business, then suggests he check out Mayride's Mahane, a tavern in Alzadaal. The hero goes straight to Mayride's Mahane and speaks with the hostess Mihlil. He asks if she knows about the bounty, and she directs him to speak with Professor Jalin, who happens to be at a table nearby. The hero speaks with the professor, who keeps asking for drinks as he tells the hero about a historic figure named Alzadaal, who sailed to Thavnir long ago and helped found Alzadaal. He says his grandson Alzadaal III was a legendary figure, rumored to have visited other worlds and is said to have buried masses of treasure deep beneath a secret island. The professor becomes very drunk, but mentions a friend named Azama who may have more info. Azama says a friend of his found a merchant in the bazaar who's selling a map to the island that he couldn't afford, but the friend left anyway and he's afraid he's never coming back. The hero goes to the bazaar and finds the merchant.
Please, Ashal, please! You must let me have that treasure map! So, you hope to find your fortune? And what? You expect me to surrender my wares for pity's sake? Come back when you've more than rags to your name. This is no mere treasure map. It is a guide to the vaults of Alzadaal III, one of the great Satraps of Alzadaal, and a direct descendant of Alzadaal Khan.
Onlookers doubt the authenticity, but he says it has an arcane glyph that you need to traverse the island. The young boy continues to beg for it, making quite a show. The hero notices a Stinian in the crowd, and the man selling the map calls out to him.
A fortune, you say? I'll take it. Will this cover the price?
The crowd disperses and the hero approaches Estinian.
Well met, my friend.
The hero tells him he's searching for the bounty and they leave together.
And now I've fleeced one of the heroes of the final days. Pray the sisters were looking elsewhere.
This map may or may not be genuine. Either way, we'll need a ship to find out for sure.
Estinian says he wanted to find this treasure to help those who've suffered from the final days, including the boy at the market, even though he thinks he was paid to beg and make a show.
You are coming along, yes?
The hero confirms, and as they walk off together, the young boy watches them. In need of a vessel, the heroes ask Matsya the fishmonger. As Matsya runs off to prepare one, Estinian points out that the boy from the market has been following them. Overwhelmed with guilt, he confesses that he was a paid actor. He also pleads with them not to go, saying the map is real and they will die if they don't go with an army. Estinian says he knew he was faking it and they're going anyway, then offers to escort him home so he doesn't get killed. Estinian leaves to escort the boy while the hero heads to Old Sharlayan to recruit Grahatia.
I wish you had sent word ahead. I thought I was having visions for a moment there.
The hero tells them about his current adventure.
The treasure vault of Alzadaal III.
Grahatia agrees to join and suggests they invite Y'shtola, who's been spending her time studying how to traverse the rift and would be interested to learn more of Alzadaal III. Kryl suggests they invite Urianger as well, then says goodbye.
Safe travels, you two, but don't forget, I'd still like your help with that other matter I mentioned.
Grahatia and the hero find Y'shtola asleep at the library. After some time, she wakes up and is shocked to see the hero. She's been obsessively researching to find any hint as to how to travel to the other reflections. The hero mentions the legend that Alzadaal's grandson was said to have traveled to another world.
Alzadaal is no minor figure in Harnish history, and much is known about his family. But this is the first I've heard of a descendant surviving a trip to another world.
With her interest piqued, she's eager to join them.
And whence do we embark upon this expedition?
Grahatia says they want to invite Urianger as well, so they leave right away. They find Urianger at Thaumazein, the hangar where Ragnarok is stored. He greets the hero warmly, then speaks about how he's helping the Loporrits.
As you may recall, the Loporrits have been seeking new purpose for the moon. Another role through which it might serve to benefit mankind. The Forum hath been working to advise them in this endeavor, but I return to offer mine own counsel.
He then explains that the Loporrits are building a wonderland of mystery on the moon, where adventurers can hunt for treasure, so when the hero explains that they are on a treasure hunt now, he is intrigued.
Fascinating. This is indeed a most fortuitous opportunity.
He joins them and muses how their actions are no longer driven by desperation.
Aye, though I cherish the Scion's accomplishments, 'tis pleasant to not have the weight of the world upon our shoulders for a change.
As they are about to leave, Thancred appears.
What, no time to spare a word for the grizzled old bard?
He talks about how he toured Isilbard and it's pretty chaotic as expected. Then the hero tells him what they're up to, and he says it looks like they have everything they need.
Feeling left out? I could put in a good word for you, if you like.
We may have been released from our obligations, but I'll never be free of that merciless wit of yours, will I? In all seriousness, 'tis best I sit this one out. Too many former scions consorting with one another might be seen as a cause for concern in certain quarters.
Thancred leaves, and the rest of them return to Thavnair to meet with Estinian. At the beach in Thavnair, Grahatia wonders what treasures Alzadaal III may have brought from other worlds, but Urianger says to temper his expectations, this all may just be folklore. The hero sets sail for the island, now referred to as Alzadaal's Legacy, armed with a map and a sprinkle of optimism. As they approach, the arcane glyph on the map activates and various beacons light up. They fight their way through a massive abandoned structure, and at the end they fight Kapakulu, a guardian golem made of ribbons. Once he is defeated, the heroes notice a strange contraption secured by ribbons.
What have we here?
'Tis not unlike a Harnish alchemical furnace in design.
Well, there is one way we might find out.
But as they approach, Varshan appears suddenly and asks what they're doing.
Great Vritra, might we beseech thee to explain the nature of this strange contrivance?
It was crafted by our alchemists at my behest, for the purpose of sealing something away. Perhaps I should simply show you. I have lifted the seal, if only for the moment, by an authority only I possess.
Small though it may be, this is a functioning gate into the void.
I must admit, I am deathly curious to know how a void gate came to be hidden in the depths of these ruins.
To tell that tale, we must first peer far to the south, and even further into memory.
Varshan goes back over 5,000 years, to when the Alligans went to conquer Mericidia, but they fought back with Tiamat and Bahamut on their side.
With Bahamut's defeat, however, the tide turned against them. Desperate to seize any advantage, the Mercidians resorted to summoning primal entities. In response, Emperor Zande forged a covenant with the Cloud of Darkness, sovereign among the all-devouring denizens of the Void, thus bolstered by icons on one side and Voidsent on the other. The two armies clashed in a battle of unspeakable carnage. So much death, so much loss.
Grahatia says it sounds like Varshan, as Vritra was there, and he confirms.
I heard Tiamat's roar of defiance and sped toward that war-torn land, along with my sibling, Hydaelyn.
He says he was raised by her and joined her in battle. As things got desperate, she plunged herself into a void gate to attack, but it closed behind her.
And Hydaelyn has been lost to us ever since.
Nowhere in the Crystal Tower's archives did I see mention of such noble sacrifice.
That does not surprise me. To Allagan eyes, it must have seemed as if a lone dragon, driven to madness, simply dove through the gate and did not return.
Virtua spent long years searching for a way to get her back, and didn't give up until the Void Gates vanished and the Allagan Empire crumbled to dust.
Yet you have the beginnings of a gate right here, under the control of a harnessed device.
He says he found the planar fissure before the founding of Radzat-Han, but since then he's commissioned alchemists to widen it.
And after decades of toil, it finally grew to a size that a child might pass through. With hope in my heart, I used the simulacrum to cross the threshold. But no, I did not find her. What I found was a host of Voidsent, clamoring around the opening they had sensed.
The gate was a threat to your people. You had to decide between endangering Radzat-Han and abandoning your sister.
Urianger and Grahatia lament that Hydaelyn is stuck on the 13th, beyond their reach. The hero recalls when he entered the void at the Crystal Tower and Nero turned purple as the void was consuming him.
Had it been allowed to progress much longer, I presume he would have been fully transformed.
This worries Virtua, but Grahatia reassures him.
The scales of the First Brood are extraordinarily resistant to ethereal fluctuations. They are the protective talisman's core components after all, and even the corruption I described would struggle to overcome. Of course. With the warding scale in one's possession, one could conceivably survive a stay in the 13th without being warped by its energies.
But Virtua believes it's 5,000 years too late and he's needed in Radzat-Han. Later in Radzat-Han, Y'shtola asks about how they managed to expand the Void Gate in the past, and Varshan says the process has been forgotten. Grahatia says when they traveled to the Void with Nero at the Crystal Tower a few years ago, they had a pact with the Cloud of Darkness, but that is broken now. In any case, Varshan now needs the bounty to restore Radzat-Han after the final days, which is why the heroes came in the first place, so all are in agreement. Urianger and Grahatia leave to return to their former duties, and Varshan asks the others to help assess how the bounty can be best spent. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a knight in black meets with elemental thrones. The Throne of Fire remarks that a gate has opened from the other side, but the others are more focused on an opportunity they've waited 10,000 years for, and the knight says the war to redeem their star begins now. The heroes speak with locals in small towns around Thavnair that were heavily impacted by the final days. They find them struggling to stay afloat still, not much better than when the Tower of Zot was still present. Back in Radzat-Han, Varshan tells the heroes that his nation relies on exports to survive, and they've been thin lately. He gathers his assembled functionaries for a meeting to lay out a plan.
I thank you for your attendance. The riches the Radiant Host have retrieved were hoarded in Alzadaal's name. A fortune I set aside for a future day of need.
He says that time is now, and the first thing he wants to do is restore the port of Yttermod to get commerce flowing again. He also plans to build an orphanage, and every merchant who receives the bounty will be required to contribute a portion from their future earnings. He names this plan after the honest merchant who transformed into a monster in Radzat-Han when the final days begun.
Kalzal should be remembered, not as the blasphemy which terrorized Thavnair, but as a hard-working and generous man who brought much wealth to our shores.
When I think of Kalzal, I feel no hatred. Only a stinging regret that we could not save him as well.
Then let it be done. Henceforth, this initiative shall be known as the Kalzal Foundation.
Virtua orders the troops to find all the orphans and for the clerks to manage the finances.
Dragon and man, side by side in pursuit of a brighter morrow. Reminded of Ishgard.
After the meeting, Varshan joins the hero and Estinian to go and follow up with Y'shtola. She recounts how the hero traveled to the first after touching an object, and what an incredible feat it was. After Estinian asks how void-sent creatures get to the source, she gives an explanation using gargoyles as an example.
To call upon such an entity, the prospective summoner must force open a void gate. The portal lasts but a moment and is relatively small, allowing only an imp or other lesser being to squeeze through with their physical body intact.
But since a gargoyle can't fit through such a small portal, they often take only the soul, similar to what the Crystal Exarch did to the Scions.
And just as our bodies remained in our world, the Void-Sent's physical form is left behind in the 13th.
The summoners then use a stone statue as a vessel for the soul. Y'shtola says there must be a guiding agent on the other side, reeling them in. Varshan is curious about the 13th shard in particular.
Why is only the boundary between the source and the 13th so fragile? So much so that it often tears open of its own accord.
I believe solving that mystery is key to understanding travel between the source and its reflections.
Varshan warns that this research is too dangerous, but Y'shtola is undaunted.
But if I were to bring along one who has already braved the 13th and humbled the cloud of darkness, well, I imagine my chances would be much improved.
The hero agrees to help. Y'shtola says that Varshan's permission is required to unseal the Void Gate, and he says he will as long as it doesn't endanger his people. She asks Varshan if his alchemist gave some explanation for how to expand the Void Gate.
I did not fully comprehend the theory, but their research began with a void-sent which had slipped through the fissure.
He says they managed to create a man-made void-sent, then submitted their work to Sharlayan, but it was then prohibited. Y'shtola says they can probably find this work in the restricted section in Sharlayan.
Unless you anticipate needing help to reach the high shelves. I see myself being of little use. Go on ahead. I still need to find Mirad and tell him about the Alzadaal Foundation.
The hero and Y'shtola head to Sharlayan, while Varshan has reservations about all of this. In Sharlayan, Y'shtola and the hero meet with Montaigne first to help secure access to the restricted section. After they explain their plans to Montaigne, he's concerned about them crossing into the void, but ultimately he trusts them, relying on their proven track record, and agrees to present their question to the forum. He advises them to speak with Forchenault in advance though. At House Levier, Forchenault asks why they wish to learn to traverse the rift, and Y'shtola says it is to unite a brother and sister, referring to Varshan. He says if they agree to share their findings, it will earn them favor in the forum. Later at the Baldessian Annex, Montaigne reports back to the heroes on the forum's decision. Though they had reservations, they decided to allow them access.
If House Damia's notes are to be found anywhere, it will be here. Let us begin.
After searching for some time, the hero hands Y'shtola a promising book.
Yes, the ether signature is unmistakable. I've felt the traces of House Damia's resonance many times at the Great Work. Among the ranks of the Void-Sent, there exist entities with the power to call forth their brethren from beyond. The species known as Atomos, however, is uniquely prodigious in this regard. From its distended maw, it can expel an endless procession of void-born creatures. A talent which sorely tested the Radiant Host in its battles against these abominations.
The book says researchers studied this creature and learned to replicate its process of expanding void rifts, thus creating an artificial Atomos. Y'shtola suggests they find Nidhana and pick her brain on the matter. At the Great Work, Nidhana is fascinated by this tomb of lost knowledge and eager to help build an artificial Atomos. Joined by Estinian and Varshan, they return to the Bounty so that Nidhana can see the Void Gate.
The ruins alone were impressive enough, but I never dreamed such a treasure lay hidden in the depths of the Bounty.
Y'shtola wants to do an experiment before they leave.
Graha theorized that a warding scale would confer protection from the Void's corrupting influence. But I would prefer to test that hypothesis before we set foot in the 13th ourselves. Water! Water! Froth and foam! Though not my first choice. These familiars I conceived of as a child have the best chance of fitting through the gate.
She gives one a warding scale, but not the other.
into the void.
They give them some time, then she summons them back.
Nixies, return to my side.
They find that one has been corrupted, but the other is fine. Varshan seals the gate as void-sent creatures begin to appear.
Graha's theory was correct then.
So it would seem. But while our second familiar was untouched by void energies, the talisman itself shows signs of degradation. We may need to modify the warding scale's design to account for the 13th's uniquely unstable ether.
Estinian asks about the 13th, and Y'shtola gives a brief explanation.
The 13th is a reflection of the source that was drowned in a flood of darkness.
She says it was a failed rejoining, according to Emmett Selk. Y'shtola says she'll work on refining the talisman, while Nidhana will work on the artificial Atomos. Estinian observes that Varshan is acting strangely. Next, Y'shtola and the hero speak with Sid at Rauger's Reach. Sid says he can construct a protective casing for the warding scale. He takes it with him and they return to Nidhana. At the Great Work, Nidhana says that, digging through the Satrap's archives, she found a list of alchemical components dating to the time when Alzadaal's legacy was built, and this may be the key for building an artificial Atomos. Varshan speaks about his dear sister and missing her for millennia, but that he is Satrap now and must let this dream go. But the Radiant Host suddenly arrives and praises him for centuries of ruling with honor.
After all that you have sacrificed for this nation, did you imagine we would begrudge you your heart's desire? As I have told you before, you are a little brother to us all. And if you are family, then so too is your sister. We are there for you if you need us. But do not ask us to sit by and watch while you abandon a sibling you have ached to rescue for millennia.
Others approach him for support, including orphans who thank him for building their orphanage.
My people, I have come to a decision. Varshan will depart Thavnir for a time.
Take care and fair fortune, little brother. Many tears would be shed should you come to harm.
They depart for Radzat-Han to set up a base of operations. Meanwhile, on the 13th,
And thus I am returned to this world bereft of saviors.
Patch 6.1 ends there. As soon as patch 6.2 releases, I'll make a story video for that one. See you next time.